Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, welcome to the Political Dice.
MPC Abiofuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political,
well researched,
accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
Yes, state house oba ghetto.
Ani ayuga ku ground.
Ani bwe babuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kizza Besigye aleesa amaanyi.
Olwofadda bafutoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwojema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF baamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simayanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamwanyiga mawu.
Ebe na birindira no ku the Political Dice ku the Alternative Dig Talk nange Teddy Tenjo ewamune
Farida Bikobere
buli wa Sunday
sawa 2.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Interface Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, and you are watching Digitalk TV, Uganda's leading online television platform, where we seek to amplify the voices of those that do not have access to media in the community. This particular television is set out for you. So in case you have anything that you'd want to speak, anything that you feel is on your heart, this particular platform is dedicated to you so that you can, be able to have a voice, because as a media, we believe we are the voice to the voiceless. Every particular Friday, starting from midday to 2 p.m., we're always joined by retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye to just paint a picture of how Uganda could be, and of course some of the challenges that are affecting Ugandans, and of course how we can also solve these particular challenges. He's one candid gentleman that has spoken to the vice that is happening in this country for a while now. So he's been tested, he's been proven, and of course he is still trying to guide this particular nation to a future that we think will not only have a sustainable Uganda, but also build citizens that are capable of having power for themselves. As I told you, every particular Friday, we are always here for 2 hours non-stop to talk about what is happening in the country. We've come to the end of this particular month, and of course, it's been rather a tedious half a year, because as we're speaking now, we're entering into the 6th month of the year. That means we are halfway this particular year. So in case you have some, you know, goals that you set for yourself, for your company, for your organization, for your family, you should be right now looking at some of the indicators for success. Have you achieved what you set out to actually achieve? Are there some things that you've not achieved yet? Why are those things not yet achieved? I think those are some of the questions you can be asking yourselves. This will help you just not only track your progress as a person, as an entity, as an organization, but also paint a picture for how better you can do in the next half you know, of the year that is coming up. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Before I invite Dr. Kizza Besigye, there's a lot of things that are happening in the news. I'll start off with you know, the Namugongo celebrations. So we are going to be, you know, celebrating the Martyrs Day. That is on Monday, 3rd June 2024. A lot of people have been trekking from various parts of the country. I would like to first of all congratulate all of you for trekking for that long. I've had people trekking from far as Kabale, people from Nebi, you recently arrived, people from Ankole, people who are walking from as far as even Kenya, Tanzania. Thank you so much for, you know, always doing this, and of course remembering the plight of those people who lost their lives right there in Namugongo. We continue to celebrate this day, and of course remember the contribution of these candid gentlemen and women who are willing to lose their life for something that they believed in. Many of them were executed, were burned to death, but they remained steadfast on what they believed in. Is there something that we remember from the Martyrs or we learn from them? I think that is something called commitment, something to believe in something that you are willing to even lose your life for. In the news this particular week, it has not been all good. In criminality and increasing, you know, criminal activities are continuing to happen in the country. Yesterday night, we had one of the policemen, actually a superintendent of police, SP, I'm not going to mention the name here, but he actually got a bit of a test of these criminals. They entered his house, and of course some wielding pangas, and fortunately he did not lose his life, but he lost some of his properties, a TV that he says is worth 1.2 million shillings, and some money that has not yet been disclosed for Ugandans. Now this comes at a time when various people are losing their lives due to criminality. We also saw a case of a teacher who has actually recently lost his life. Away from that particular teacher, we have a gentleman who was walking on Ben Chwanka Street. We had that on camera. He was, you know, kicked by a group of young people. Some of them have actually been arrested to date. But the problem of criminality continues to ravage the country as we speak. Of course, the censure motion for the commissioners in parliament who are accused of misappropriating 1.7 billion, or actually not even misappropriating, but awarding themselves 1.7 billion illegally. Now, their censorship continues, led by Theodore Sechikubo right there in parliament. I recently realized that Persis Namuganza, the Minister for Housing, was actually there to assent on this particular you know, petition that is going to be ousting those people from their positions as commissioners of parliament. Various members of parliament continue to sign this petition in hope that these people will be censored for that not only illegal but also immoral act of servicing or rewarding themselves with money that comes from the confines of the people. This money belongs to Ugandans. But if you can have a group of legislators, so-called commissioners, appropriating 1.7 billion to themselves, that is something that will call for censorship. Then also the challenge of the divisions in the opposition continue. We heard that the National Unity Platform gentleman, who is Bigirwa Moses, actually formed his own Eastern Revolutionary Platform, a pressure group that he thinks is going to be able to not only you know, help people from the East advocate for a fair or equitable sharing of the government cake, but also he believes that this particular pressure group is going to add to the activities of the National Unity Platform. And of course, the National Unity Platform has been in the news. They've been trying to trek to various parts of Uganda. The last one being Mukono, where they were not allowed to actually access the venue that they had booked for, and they had to actually stage what you may call a rally that was not actually organized to be at that particular area. So they stood there and they talked about the things that they believe are affecting them. And Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu actually pointed out that Mukono is one of the regions where most of his people are actually arrested and taken or abducted. He believes that most of his supporters from Mukono itself have actually been at the helm of these abductions, these arbitrary imprisonments, and believes that Mukono is something that is very, very vital. He was followed by a few legislators. Also, one of the members of parliament from Mukono, that is Betty Namboze, was there with him. And of course, he continues to pledge that he's going to continue to move to various parts of the country. Though the Uganda police has actually come out to say, to bar him, saying that he is not only being illegal, but also being rowdy in the way he's doing his particular job. Also, lastly, definitely not least, is the story of the new Inspector General of Police and his deputy. That is none other than Abbas Byakagaba and, of course, James Ochaya. Now, these are the new leaders at the Uganda Police Force. And speaking at their inauguration, right there at Naguru, the Minister for Internal Affairs came out to actually advise them, particularly on not beating opposition members. Now, General Kahindo Tafide was officiating, these people as they are entering the new office of IGP and Deputy IGP, and he was too intentional at actually even mentioning names. He mentioned the name of Dr. Besigye and also mentioned Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu and said, you should do everything, but do not beat these political players. And he says this is not something that you should do as the Uganda Police Force, and it's not something that they condone as the leaders that are taking this country forward. So what does this mean? Is this just banter? Is this a point to caution from the minister? And do we think that Abbas and his colleagues are actually going to respect the values and the ideals of those people who descend from what they believe in, especially the opposition? Because oftentimes we have seen the police force being partisan in nature, having people that they condone and some people that they actually mistreat. And do we think this particular new leadership is actually going to respect the rights of opposition in this particular country? That and much more is what we're going to be talking about. What you can do is just send this message, send in a comment to this particular platform at Digitalk TV, at the Alternative Uganda, at retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye's page. Send in those messages or comments, and we shall also make sure to maybe read one or two. Or what you can also do is just share this video to as many people as you can. Because we are here and we believe that it's yet another beautiful day and a beautiful afternoon that we are going to hear from a retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. So send this message to as many people as you can and let them know that we are already live and direct right here at Digitalk TV. For those who don't know where Digitalk TV, it is in Makindye, that is locally along, just after the water pump if you're coming from Makindye. If you're coming from sides of Munyonyo, Konge, then you can actually find us on after Ndusa petrol station. As you slope, you will see a banner of Digitalk TV. So in case you want to advertise with us, feel free to come through here, or you can actually call our programs director, Mr. Mukose Arnold Anthony, on +256 0701 800212. He'll be able to help you. Just send us a direct message and we'll get back to you in real time. Allow me welcome Dr. Kizza Besigye. Welcome, sir. It's always a privilege to have you on the show, sir.
Great pleasure always to be here at the Digitalk TV. And thank you for hosting me, Edgar. And I'm grateful always to Digitalk for allowing me to share some views with all the Digitalk audience, wherever you join us from. So a very good afternoon today. I hope you had a good week. And thanks for always tuning in to have a conversation about our country. I'm especially sending my greetings this afternoon to the various pilgrims who are on the roads from different parts of our country heading towards Kampala and towards Namugongo specifically. It's not an easy journey, partly because it involves walking for long distances. The other day I was coming from Kabale and I saw the pilgrims from Kisoro who were making good progress coming to Kampala. And I've been watching the pilgrims.
Indeed, you need strength to live in Uganda such as this one. But before you even delve into that conversation, you've hinted on the pilgrims. But what does this day really mean? Because we take it as a day, yes, public holiday, we celebrate, people walk from various parts of the country. But what is this day supposed to actually mean for Ugandan out there? And what do we learn, or what do you learn as Dr. Besigye from the activities of
Well,
the
it's,
Martyrs?
first of all, Martyrs, Uganda Martyrs constitute people that I think more than any other Ugandan have internationalized or created awareness about Uganda more than anybody else. Whether you go to Australia, whether you go where there are Christians, they will be aware of the Uganda Martyrs, and therefore aware of our tiny country, Uganda, and its people. And that is because what they did has not been done by many people. That's what made them stand out, that they were able to stand for their belief in Christ, God, and ready to take whatever consequences came their way, boldly and courageously. And as we all know, indeed, they were killed through very painful processes, but that they endured them very courageously, in fact, singing.
Yes.
And so that distinguishes them as a people who whose faith was deep enough to cause them to suffer death with pleasure. and so they create an inspiration. You know, I don't know how many people have lived in Uganda before them and after them. You know, those of us who are living today are close to 50 million, we hear. So I don't know how many Ugandans have lived in this area we call Uganda. I understand there have been people living here for the last about 50 million years. People have lived in this area. Total unknown.
Yes.
Even those who died yesterday, nobody knows who they are. Those who died certainly a little longer, no one knows and cares who they are. But these were young people.
Either way.
Very young people in their 20s, I think.
50, somewhere in teens.
Yes, they
20s,
were.
The eldest were around 30.
Yes, yes, they were very young people, but their faith and their will has propelled them into being known and recognized and celebrated all over the world. Whereas those who, you know, you can't ask who has been the richest Ugandan to live. Nobody knows or cares who had a lot of property. Nobody knows or cares who had the greatest education in Uganda, or who had the greatest number of children. Nobody really knows or cares. So it's, I think, the inspiration of the Martyrs is to the extent that it is not how long you live, it is not how much you live with, it is what you do with the life you have that matters. It is what you stand for that matters. And that's a hugely, you know, encouraging and inspirational thing that they achieved in their lives. You know, certainly for me, I consider them highly inspirational. You know, that, you know, if you threaten me, and I have had a lot of threats of people saying, you know, we shall kill you, I laugh, because you know, we are all going to die. It's better to die for something than to die for nothing.
What you say paints a picture of that Ugandans can actually die for something they believe in.
Absolutely.
The Martyrs died. We've had people who died during the call for independence. Some people died, your colleagues, in the struggle. Why is it that today we're not seeing people willing to actually even stand for anything, even if it's just imprisonment, even if beatings? Ugandans no longer care. Why is it that it's like that? Do you think you know a reason why it is like this?
Well, I don't think that it is entirely as you state it. Anywhere in the world, not so many people are willing to sacrifice for the common good, or even for their own beliefs. So it's not unique that there are not so many people ready and willing to make sacrifices. Yes. But there are people who are still making immense sacrifices in our country. You know, if you go to the prisons here, you will be amazed at how many people have been imprisoned for their conscience, simply because they believe in something and project what they believe in. It's the numbers of people in Kitaria, in Ruzira, in all these prisons around, you know, are unbelievable. The unfortunate part of it is the sacrifice of some is not known and therefore celebrated. But many people make sacrifices. And not only in the political sphere where, you know, there is a torch on people, but people who sacrifice to save others. You know, I know many people who make a lot of sacrifices for the benefit of others, who will never be talked about or known, but certainly whose actions in terms of the appreciation of God are very high up there. So the Martyrs, the Martyrs Day, yes, for our country, I think, should cause us to know that Uganda actually today needs greater and greater sacrifice than possibly we have committed ourselves to, because the country is in very, very deep crisis. Okay. So we hope that people who are, you know, sacrificing by walking, of course they are praying for the country as they walk. That is part of the process, of the reason. They pray for their own needs, they pray for the needs of others, and those prayers are not in vain. But over and beyond prayers, I think the record and work of the pilgrims, yes, sir, should strengthen us to take action, because it's not enough to just talk and pray, and you also need to take action, like they took action. And yes, paid a price for it, but they took the actions nonetheless. Okay. And this is a time Ugandans really need to take action.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. Let's come to the issue of the appointment of Abbas Byakagaba and his colleague James Ochaya, career policemen. One had even retired, Abbas Byakagaba. Mr. President brought him back to be at the helm of the Uganda Police Force. And it comes at a time when there's a lot of criminality, so it's like a litmus test on the side of police. Let me first ask you, before you even look at the criminality, what is your take on the appointment of Byakagaba?
None at all. I mean, it doesn't occupy my mind in the least. Because, frankly, I mean, and I have been, you know, talking about this endlessly, the fact that we don't have state institutions. State institutions were captured. They are no longer state institutions. So talking about Uganda Police Force is misnomerous. It's not a Uganda Police Force. It's a Museveni Police Force. He owns it. He uses it for his purposes, not for the purposes of Ugandans. Just like all other institutions. So all our institutions were captured. They are personalized. They are controlled by a person or, as we have been saying, a family at the most. So they are not in the service of the people of Uganda, far from it.
Okay.
They don't account to the people of Uganda, far from it. That's why they commit crimes on behalf of those who employs them. Because for them they do the bidding of whoever has power over them. And I don't consider that it is unexpected. You know, if the people of Uganda had power over them, they would serve the people of Uganda. But the people of Uganda don't have power over them. So they serve the will of that who has, or those who have power over them. And the appointment is partly the expression of that. You know, because you see, institutions should be regulated in a manner that the whims or caprices of individuals are very, very minimal. So the police has got all these institutions, including the police council. The people should be assessed. They should be progressively assessed institutionally, and their promotions a result of their continuous assessment. And that there is a process indeed through which those assessments are put on the table and say, yes, this one is the fitting of this one is fitting of that. Those institutional processes don't exist, don't work. And that's...
Or just because we don't see them working does not mean that they don't work. Because, okay, who else would be better fit? Abbas Byakagaba, former IGP, he has risen through the ranks.
Yes, so you yourself have just said that he was recalled from retirement. And before he was recalled, there was no IGP, I don't know for how long.
Yeah, for a while.
You know, there was no IGP at all.
I think
the former IGP was known when he would be retiring a long time. As soon as he was appointed, it was known when he would when he would not go beyond. You know, of course, you can be changed at any time, but if you have a contract, it is known when the contract expires.
Yes, that's very true.
So, if institutions were functioning, institutions would generate a succession that is smooth and automatic. That before you retire, someone else has already been appointed, has already understudied the one who is there, has been understudying him and taking over from him up to the time when he formally hands over and exits, and this one is eased into his,
He has been mentored into the process. He knows everything.
into his or her position.
Yes, sir.
That's how institutions function. Not that somebody, plays out and is sent away and there is acting, somebody becomes acting, and the one who is acting has somebody acting in the place of his... and that's how all these institutions work, and then it's as if it was maybe, by the way, they say, now call back that one who is in retirement, let him come and now serve the police. You can clearly see that this is not a state institution, that it's not functioning institutionally, that it is functioning on caprices of whoever controls it or owns it. So, to expect anything as a citizen from such an institution is really to have hopes against hopes, because it's not in my service, so it can only serve me when the person in whose service it is considers that it should serve me, or if by trying to achieve their objectives, it coincidentally serves me. That is the kind of situation in which these institutions operate and work. They are not accountable to us. They don't primarily serve us. They serve who has power over them.
The president, you mean? But let me ask you something. Doesn't it give you a bit of contentment to know that at the helm of the Uganda Police Force, they are career policemen? Because oftentimes, some of you have said they
you see, the contentment does not...
Because most of the top leadership now...
Because even a career, that career is not just because somebody is putting on a police uniform that makes the career. I've told you that an institution that is a public institution that functions as institutions, as public institutions should function, operates very differently from what we have. So people who have had careers, as you call them, in this kind of an institution cannot attract the merits, the legitimacy, the respect that those who would serve in truly public institutions would attract. Because you have been seeing the basis of promotions. The one who is abusing abusing human rights, provided is doing it on account and to the satisfaction of the person who has power over them, gets promoted.
That is true, and there is evidence to believe
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's very true.
So you cannot talk about comfort because they have appointed somebody who has been in that kind of thing. In fact, quite likely the merits that would get that person appointed are the ones that ordinarily should put that person in prison.
Oh, so morally they don't have any ground.
So we cannot use, you see, an institution that is not founded correctly on good foundation, that is not built on as a public institution, and we use it to talk about who in that institution is where, who deserves what. It's self-defeating. The whole institution lacks legitimacy. The whole institution is not developed according to ethics and standards on which a public institution like the police should be based. It shouldn't. And so this is why Ugandans must be aware that when this whole scam under the Museveni junta has been removed, we will have to rebuild all state institutions. That's why we talk about a transition. There must be a transitional period in which we create a new legal framework for the country, a new constitution that provides for institutions, people's institutions now. That would be a people's constitution providing for people's institutions, and those institutions will have to be built.
Doctor, that sounds like a fairy tale, because even if you took power today, do you think you'll have to just overwhelm the entire police force? Because
no, you would have to overhaul it. And actually we tried to do that. I was a minister in internal affairs.
Very true.
And we did purge a large number of the previous police, and the intention was indeed to create a public institution that derives legitimacy from the public. Of course, as we have stated many times, that process was overthrown by Mr. Museveni, and all its intentions were blown off in the wind, and that's why we are where we are.
Okay, what do you read in the messages of the minister, your former comrade in arms, Kahindo Tafire, saying that they should not beat you, and he has been very intentional about mentioning it and saying it again and again? Do you think, what do you read in his messages?
I think, frankly, Ndugu Kahinda Otafire is conflicted. I think he is troubled.
How so?
Because I think he still considers that the struggle in which he participated, which was intended to create a democratic dispensation, he knows that's not what is there. I think he still, all these people, including actually Mr. Museveni, I think somehow, somewhere, he would wish to be associated with progressive politics. He would like to be talked about at the same time as people who talk about revolutionaries.
His core principle, one of them is democracy.
In fact, I think he really considers that he is referred, that he would wish to be referred to as a revolutionary. But I'm sure he knows that he is the exact opposite of what a revolutionary is supposed to be, or what he's superintending over is the exact meaning of reactionary regime should be. And so people like Kahindo Tafire, I think, still in their minds live with that conflict, that contradiction, of you know, a hyena which swallows a hot stone covered with fat, and it burns its mouth, and he says, now should I spit it or should I swallow it? You know, caught between what is sweet and what is dangerous. So I think Mr. Otafire knows that what they are doing is dangerous for the country, is dangerous even for himself eventually. I think he is, and many of them possibly do realize
Does
that.
does history absolve them, the Kahindas? Because he has also been pertinent about mentioning we are not allowing the succession plan, Muhoozi coming into power. So people like Kahinda, who might be in government,
Yeah, so that is
does this
the
absolve them?
that is the conflict, I think, in their mind. That's the life, conflicted life in which they have to live. Because, for example, you saw General Otafire, you know, say Muhoozi will not stage his things in his village, in Ruhinda, where he's the MP, you know, and I think he did something and chased the people who were organizing. Of course, later on they came back with vengeance and organized what he didn't want to see happen. Now, if I was in his shoes, you know, you must come to a point where you say, now, since I cannot contain this, I must leave it. You know, you say, this is, my conscience doesn't allow me to associate with this kind of thing, so I resign. Now, he can't, because he wants the sweetness in the offices he lives in, you know, free things. Free money, free vehicles and fuel, free house, free travels, free what. So on the one hand, he's trapped in that. On the other hand, his conscience is troubled by what he sees. Yeah. So he will die, you know, just like that, you know, which says Miremirom Obunuzi. You know, they say, should I swallow
the sweetness?
And fire, this fire which is the fire in my mouth, can I swallow it? I can't. But should I also lose the sweetness around this heat? and you know how the story ended. You know, this hyena really eventually died.
That is retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. All right, it's still the interview show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Some euphemisms that really light up the moment here with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. You're still watching the interface. Please share this message, this video, to as many people as you can in the comment section, in your tabloids, on your statuses. Please share this video. Doctor, I'm going to come to the next issue of insecurity. We have seen various people being beaten up, and the good thing is these are on camera, so there are many we do not see on camera that are actually reported. Many people being injured. First of all, to you, do we have a security crisis here?
There is no doubt. It's not just a security crisis. It's an all-round crisis. This is what we have characterized it, a failure to thrive crisis. FTT,
And you've been
failure to thrive. It is an all-round crisis. And so, but for the security you mentioned, you see there are two very clear challenges that cannot end in anything except a security crisis. First, you have people who cannot have means of subsistence, who cannot subsist, who cannot have an upkeep. You have tons and tons of those in these urban areas, even in the rural villages, but more especially in the urban centers. People who have nowhere to sleep, nothing to eat,
That's very true.
nothing to do. You know, you have those in huge numbers. They will definitely engage in crime, you know. You know, I live in a peri-urban place in Kasangati. And I try to farm there. I grow some matoke, some maize, some vegetables, some this. Who are ready to take even the mature matoke, the mature maize, you know, is unbelievable.
You mentioned here that people were stealing from your farm.
Yes, every day. It's now.
It's not a one-off.
No. I've now actually employed, I've had to employ people to sleep guarding these gardens. And so, that is the situation everywhere. And mark you, those who try to come and steal food, many of them just want to steal food to eat. But if you have money in your pocket, or you have come back from the bank, and the people even in these banks are hungry because the salaries that are paid to our public servants are peanuts. And actually, the banks must pay the banking staff well. Otherwise, they are contributing to all this. So you find the bank staff also link up with criminals.
Yeah.
If you set out from, if you are withdrawing a substantial amount of money, they alert their networks. They are on the watch out for you. You get out, they go with you and deal with you. And some of them are indeed soldiers who are involved in these crimes, who have guns officially,
That has been
who have what?
also.
But the petty stealing, you know, stealing phones, you can't walk talking on your phone in Kampala now. It will be grabbed. But also other things. You know, I saw in South Africa, when I lived in South Africa in the early 2000s, Johannesburg, downtown Johannesburg was almost, you know, difficult to walk through. You go with a watch on your hand. They won't just snatch the watch. They'll cut off the hand and run with it to get the watch off. You know, and South Africa had to go through a whole. It has not been sorted out.
Yeah, even up to today.
It has not been sorted out. Why? Because of the economic injustices that are in South Africa. Some people who have, others who have absolutely nothing, who have nowhere to sleep, who have nothing to eat. That is what we have in Kampala. So that is one. But secondly, on the other hand, is the law enforcement. You have all these policemen who are in pretty much the same situation as the people they are supposed to arrest. They are totally hungry. They are in a crisis, very deep crisis. Every policeman you meet on the road has a crisis. Has sick people he can't afford to get medicine for, has children who can't go to school, has a wife who has no clothes, who has no this. The policemen themselves are coming from shelters that are clearly not fit for human habitation, you know. You can't ask a policeman, take me to your home. They will be ashamed to walk with you to where they sleep. You know, those are the ones we are supposed to rely on
To protect.
to deal with the crisis of these millions of people who have nothing to eat, to ensure that they don't cause commotion. So this is an impossibility. So the policemen are thieves. The ones they are supposed to arrest are their partners. Absolutely. So when these kick kick fighters, knock you down and grab something. They keep something for themselves. They give something else to the policeman who is responsible for the area in which they operate. Yes. So they are known. They are well known, and this is not unique in Uganda. This is everywhere where such a situation like we have persists. So this is a very, very huge crisis. It's a crisis that cannot be sorted out in isolation, that we sort out security. No. We must sort out the crisis of the country.
You're trying to make it a country crisis, but there are such petty thieves and such activities happening in places like Nairobi. They are there.
Yes.
So how unique is ours, really, for us to call it a crisis?
In many respects, it's an African crisis. Absolutely. It's an African crisis. That's why you see all these Africans dying in the Mediterranean. They are not just from Tunisia or from Morocco, they are coming from the whole continent, fleeing, running away from the continent. So it's an African crisis. And that's why, if Africans had their way, they would arrest all these people calling themselves African presidents and lock them up and create a new environment for Africa. Africa needs liberation. So that's why the struggle we are engaged in is not just a struggle of changing leaders, no. It's a struggle of creating a new governance system in Uganda, and certainly needed in most of Africa. The transition, that's why we say we must have a transition from people who are holding our countries hostage to free communities whose energy and power can then be unfolded to develop our countries. We must, that's why, you see what's happening in Uganda and the security situation you refer to, I think demonstrates it easily, that we have an apartheid system. What obtains in Uganda is an apartheid system. And that's why what is unfolding is not different from what has been happening in South Africa.
Yes.
Because South Africa actually hasn't yet overcome the apartheid system. The apartheid system is still alive and well in South Africa. And the failure to overcome the apartheid system is, there has been an election now. It is going to be the reason for the demise of the African National Congress.
Yeah, because there are higher chances that they may lose this election.
They may not entirely lose the election this time, but there is no doubt that they have lost it. They have lost their what they claimed to have been the mission of the African National Congress was lost. And that's why there is the people have peeled away from them. So the apartheid system, post-independence apartheid system, exists in most of Africa, where the elites, the African elites, created a preferential system for themselves and continued governance akin to what was there before independence. That's what we must liberate ourselves from.
Okay, that's where we start from after this short commercial break. We look at also the young people. They are really at the helm of this. And the way these thievery and these mass murders are going on, it's more of from a trained and skillful point of view. These people literally know what to do, where to kick you. And of course, has President Museveni actually failed? Because he has always boasted of a security, and that has been one of his main things, that we sleep at night. Tweba Kakutulo, the narrative that came. Has he actually failed on this particular core principle or core thing that he has always stood, saying this is his greatest asset and his greatest strength? Let's go for a short commercial break. My name is Edgar Matthew Karahanga. I'm still with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi, welcome to the Political Dice.
Empishi ya byobufuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political.
well researched,
Accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
Bya State House oba ghetto.
Ani ayugayuga ku ground.
Ani bwe babuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kizza Besigye aleese amaanyi.
Olwo fadda bafutoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwo jeema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF baamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simayanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamu apanyiga mawu.
Ebe na birindira no ku the Political Dice ku the Alternative Digital nange Teddy Tenjo ewamune.
Farida Bikobere
Buli wa Sunday
esawa 2.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back to the Interface Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karahanga. We are into the second and final hour of this show, and every Friday, as you well know, starting from 12 to 2 p.m., we are here with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we're trying to, talk about what is happening in the country, and not only just criticizing, but finding solutions that will help amplify the voices of our Ugandans, but also create a better Uganda at the end of the day. Before we went for a short commercial break, we're still looking at the security crisis that is happening in the country, where many people are robbed, beaten, murdered, and of course it's now business as usual. We are coming to understand that this is actually the new normal. Around kicks flying everywhere, and we're trying to find solutions to this particular challenge. Doctor, before we went for the break, I was highlighting on the issue that these are young people, very young people that are indulging in such criminality, but also they look trained, and it looks like they know what they are doing. Is there something that we need to see beyond just saying people are poor? Yes, they're living in very miserable conditions, but is there something else that is to these gangs that we need to see?
Well, the only thing that there is to them is that they will do anything and everything to survive. That's human instinct, human nature. Okay. If you need skills to survive, you will acquire them. You will train yourself to get them. So if the easiest way to survive is to kill others, you will train yourself how to kill them. If you and there is no shortage of that. You see, the people who have caused this situation, the robbers. You see, let's be clear about what is happening in Uganda. The people we say are in government, the people who control power, they have simply used that power to rob the country.
Okay.
So the people who have nothing to eat, it's not that that's where they started. What they had to eat has been robbed by those who control power. And robbery is taking somebody else's property by force.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. You know, when you see the people they call state council terrorizing people in town,
Yes, sir.
you know, people who are selling bananas on their head and take it without any intention of giving you any service is robbery.
Yes.
So, part of the process of robbing, so robbing, there is a whole hierarchy of robbers, from the one at the top to the people who are robbing land, for example. They come and hire people here in town, whom are now an institution called Chifesi. They say everybody knows there are people called Chifesi.
Yes, they even interview them.
Now, these Chifesis are trained in gyms, the gymnasiums, the places where people should be doing exercises. There are people who stay there 24/7.
Yes.
Building muscles, training how to kick people and so on, waiting for customers to come and buy them, to go and evict people from their land, to go and do some havoc. You know, they are, so it's an institution now. One time, some were hired from a gym in Katwe. I think they called it Musa's gym or something. And were brought to my home in Kasanga to terrorize me. Unfortunately for those ones, that's why the people around my home call themselves Bengazi. They are fighters. The bodabodas identified them coming from a minibus of the people, of the person who had brought them. And they looked suspicious, so the bodabodas started trailing them. They saw them come to my home. They followed them. And these people had come to say that I owe them money because they were my agents in an election. I didn't pay them. They had printed some papers to say that they were my agents. That's what the bodabodas saw them being distributed to them, so they pursued them. When they had started making noise outside my gate, these bodabodas of ours mobilized large numbers of people. They came and beat the hell out of them. Wow. And they confessed. So that's how we knew which gym they had gone.
And that brings me to my next question that I was going to ask you. That there is a narrative that these are some of your supporters, not you as a person, but as the opposition. You use these people.
So I'm telling you that there is now an institution of face, which is recognized from where people hire people to terrorize others. Their main customers are the land grabbers, like the ones who killed Grabber in Bushenyi.
They're those that killed Sobi.
So it's a well recognized. You're asking how they are trained. So they are trained because now it's an institution for survival. They are trained in those gyms, kick fighting and so on, not for sports, but for survival, doing crime, for criminal activity. They are trained. Now, but all this has come about and will continue escalating because of the social insecurity. Once people have nothing to eat. You see, I've been telling you here that security is not about having policemen. If people are food insecure, you already have insecurity. If people have no shelter, they have no accommodation. You have insecurity in your hands. If people cannot access health care, if they are health insecure, you have a huge problem on your hand. And so what we are dealing with is a result of an all-round breakdown of social security. And so you have people now who have nothing to lose, who will do anything to simply live. And you can't blame them. It's the society we have constructed. That's why the robbers, these people's wealth, the ones who are attacking them now.
But that's the narrative that even those attackers are perpetrating. They say, you stole our things.
Yes.
Yes. Just from a direct translation.
But that is it. That is it.
Aren't you the ones who are sowing these seeds, Doctor? These seeds of anarchy, of people being that violent, telling them that they are stealing from them.
The one who talks about danger is not the one who creates it. If you say that is dangerous, you are not the source of it. You must deal with what created the danger, not the one who is pointing at it. What we are doing, and I will plead guilty to doing it. That's what I am doing even now. Is to say this is dangerous. This is very, it's so dramatic, the robbery that goes on. It's the money you have. So Revenue Authority is the biggest agent of robbers. Revenue Authority is an institution created by robbers to rob from the country. Because elsewhere where there is a tax system, the money remains the property of those taxed. They apply it for their purposes. Where you tax without an intention of providing for those you have taxed, you are a robber. And that's what we are dealing with in Uganda. And that's why I say the solution for this is drawing the line very clearly in the sand,
Yes, sir.
isolating the robbers and ending their power over those they are robbing. And of course, once that power ends, what they robbed must also be sorted out. You know what legitimately belongs to them and what does not legitimately belong to them will have to be sorted out at some stage. But the starting point must be to end the system of robbery. The robbery is not by the kick, these people kicking others. Those are responding to the mega robbery that has gone on for 40 years. So these are symptoms of the real robbery that is going on. So these ministers and and Mr. Museveni have no business talking about robbery anywhere because they are the real robbers. And we must make this very clear. We must draw the line and break their walls which they have built around what they have robbed, because that's what they do, and recover what they have robbed from us.
Okay, Doctor. Before we recover what was robbed from us, let's look at the people who are going to lead us in recovering what they have robbed from us. That is the opposition political parties. As we speak today, the National Unity Platform has been on a tour to various parts of this country. Recently, or the most recent being in Mukono, where they are actually not allowed to continue with these particular processions. They had a plan to go to Masaka, but this has not actually also, matured into something. The other challenge that is happening is that the political party that is leading the helm of changing this country is breaking by the beat. Recently, one of their cardinal leaders, one of the core people who started, he calls himself PPF 005, Bigirwa Moses, actually started his own pressure group. And this comes at a time when there are many divisions that are cropping up, especially in the opposition. Last one actually being the breakaway of the DP bloc from the National Unity Platform. That happened this particular week. Mukaku and his colleagues believe that they are not going to be working with Kyagulanyi because they think Kyagulanyi is running a National Unity Platform as a fire-based crew, as a musical enterprise. Is there a quality of leadership lacking in the opposition? And of course, where are they going? And the other question that I'm going to point to Dr. Besigye is the radicalism, in quotes, of the opposition. When you look at some of the videos of some of the members of the National Unity Platform, some people may call them being radical in nature. How do we deal with this radicalism in politics? Is politics supposed to be a game of contestation between hate? What is the real core principle of the opposition as they continue this journey? Doctor, what's your take on these denominations that continue to be seen in the opposition political parties? They started with their political parties, now they are in the National Unity Platform. And we are at a time when we are entering a political season. 2024, 2026 is just a stone throw away. And you also say this is a time for uniting as the opposition. Are these people listening to you, or where do you think these denominations are coming from?
So, first of all, there has been a very painful but clear failure on our part to recognize the situation that we operate in as it is. So this failure on our part, which is clearly the success of Mr. Museveni and his junta, has been in creating a falsehood that we have failed to recognize and to manage. You see, because they have created a system they say is a multi-party system, and that through that system you can compete for power in the country, and this is totally false, but we have failed to recognize that it is not the case and to deal with what the case is. And frankly, this catastrophic failure on our part, and our part I mean the political elite of Uganda, the catastrophic failure to recognize that there is no multi-party system, that there is no dispensation in which you can contest for power. That dispensation doesn't arise that you can contest electorally for power, that dispensation does not exist. We have failed to appreciate that institutions with offices that many people contest for are institutions that give office without power. Now, this failure of appreciation is what advises the situation you are talking about. Because once we fail to recognize that, and we want to act as if indeed these parties are functioning parties that can contest and get power in an electoral contest, then we arm the junta, Mr. Museveni's junta, with an incredible advantage to continue manipulating us. Because we now officially view ourselves as rivals, that we are rivaling NRM for power.
Yes.
That, you know, there is FDC here campaigning to be given power by the population to lead the country, so that the population withdraws power from NRM and gives it to FDC, or withdraws it from NRM and gives it to NUP, and then you lead. You know, once you have that misunderstanding, then you compete amongst yourselves. So you find FDC is a competitor of NUP. FDC is a competitor of JEMA, of UPC, of DP, of the other one. And in that competition, you have failed to appreciate what is arranged against you. That you are not competing, because anybody who clearly follows what goes on in Uganda will understand that you cannot compete against the state. NRM or Mr. Museveni or whatever you described them as is the state. So what you would be contesting against are state institutions, yes, not the party. That's why you are talking about the police not allowing competitors to do what they should be doing in competition. So Kyagulanyi is not fighting NRM. He's fighting the police. His competitor is the police. So if he fails to recognize that it's not NRM, it's not Museveni as a candidate, your interface is the police. Your interface is state money, not NRM money. We don't contest against the money in NRM that members of NRM contribute. There is no single member of NRM who has ever contributed to NRM.
That's true. There's no fundraising.
No single member. So you are not contesting against the money of NRM. You are contesting against your own money of taxes which they have robbed from you. It is the money that you meet buying your members, your poor members. So if we continue to fail to understand that what is arranged against us is not NRM, but the state, and that the state is not just arranged against this party or that party, but is arranged against anybody challenging the power they hold in the state, which they grabbed from us. Then we will have caused the biggest disservice to the population that we claim to lead. Yes, you see? And Uganda will never be free. So, I have talked about how those who captured power by force keep it, that they use four main things. First is the terror, which they continue to use. Force, beat, torture, kill. They use that. Fear. Two, they use the money they have robbed. Because they have robbed from everybody. Everybody is up against the wall. They have nothing to eat. They have robbed everything. They now use it to buy support from those they robbed from, especially the leaders. Leaders who are organizing for liberation, because they themselves are impoverished. They buy them. Three is the control of propaganda and information. You know, propaganda. You know, this week, I think next week, this week I have been seeing, in many places, adverts saying, please, save the day. On 5th July, there is going to be a big thing to show the achievements of Mr. Museveni.
Yeah.
There is a big function. I'm sure they are already buying cows to eat and to prepare pilau. You know, the pilau and NRM now unite. There is going to be a celebration of the achievements of NRM. Now, anybody, you don't need to tell anybody that achievements actually talk for themselves. You don't have to first.
Then you may forget them.
Achievements, you don't have to talk about them. They will talk for themselves. You know.
Yeah.
But they want to talk about the achievements, and so Kampala is going to be closed. Even those who are going to work will have nowhere to pass, because NRM is going to be talking about achievements, propaganda. Because everybody knows that all this robbery we have been talking about, the insecurity, the suffering, the potholes that are all over the country, the what, everybody knows about all this. But they will spend a lot of money to create the impression that there's been something achieved. They spend equal amount of energy and money to show that we are terrible people, those who talk about them. We are full of hatred. We want to cause war. We want to cause this. You know, and poor people, because we have no voice to explain as they do. They own all the radio stations, they hire all the journalists, they cause all, you know, they reach out to, if Mr. Museveni is talking, everyone must tune into what he's saying in the country. All media stations freely must air what he's saying. We don't have the same kind of voice. So people listen to that nonsense all the time and don't have the opportunity to listen to what we are saying. We have to look for digital, which people need the internet to to access. And that's why you people who tune into these things, find ways of also sending this information to others. Because our people are trapped in propaganda that they don't listen, they don't know the truth. Lastly, which touches on what you are raising in the political parties, is that they have controlled us for this long because they invest heavily in dividing us, in causing divisions among those. It is with knowledge, like the ones they buy, you know. We are fighting for freedom. They buy Mao, and he goes with some people. Some people, they buy Nanda, they buy, you know. So, but others, they operate as if they are genuine within our parties, but cause confusion. They have been infiltrated into the parties, they cause confusion so that you don't focus on your mission.
Okay, maybe one.
And that is what you are describing as problems in the opposition parties.
The other problem that you have is that the opposition is beating journalists, and I want you to be intentional about commenting on that. FDC, they beat up Noah Mani, China, a journalist from New Vision. It was there. Even recently in Masaka.
But I've just told you that these parties, you call parties of opposition, are heavily infiltrated by the state, absolutely. They are heavily infiltrated. Some of them are branches of the state, outright.
So those ills are not yours, you're not owning them.
But even where they are not, you see, the state can come in a party, perpetuate. You see, for example, when we were carrying out demonstrations, and you would hear them say, they are coming to spoil your businesses. They are going to destroy your tomato stands. Of course, they knew we would not do so. But they would actually hire people to come and cause that mayhem so that they can then justify what they were saying. You see, these people, this is why we are tear gassing them, because they are a menace. When the menace is infiltrated by them. So we would have, even when we were going to demonstrate, we would have also to have our own police to beat those they infiltrate amongst us, so that they don't achieve what the other people's objective is. But these are some of the things. So divide and rule is one of the tools, major tools that they use. For example, lately they have been tear gassing NUP activities, but letting us to move. And the intention, even for the naive, should be clear. They want to say, you see, so
Besigye is more special.
Besigye, you see, is actually working with Museveni. You know, that's why
They're letting him move.
Yes. So then they infiltrate people in NUP. NUP start attacking us. Our people, of course, hit back. In no time, you find NUP and FDC, they are fighting. But the cause of the fight is the other one, not wanting us to unite and fight together that problem. So this is why, you know, we must, especially those of us who are on the receiving end of the junta, we must be extremely focused on not allowing anything to divide us. If the need be, because you see, I have made it abundantly clear that the fight for liberation is not a partisan task. So those of us who at least appreciate that this is a liberation task, it's not an electoral task. It's a liberation task. Those who are rather than operating in isolation, we should operate together. And we see how they allow one and stop another one. If we were all in Mukono today, we would confront them together there. Then they would have far less opportunity of causing the divisions. We should, so, or if we are to operate separately, at least we should have a combined high command that manages all these situations and understands what is going on about them. So, you know, the parties will continue to have problems as long as the perception within the parties, first of all, lends legitimacy to the regime that captured Uganda. Lending legitimacy means appearing as if there is a multi-party system and that, you know, they are going to hold elections that are legitimate, that are credible, and that we are going to, you know, get in and participate, and the electoral commission announces the results and so on and so forth. That is lending legitimacy to an illegitimate system.
Okay, Doctor. Because of time, I will have to stop there. In these last 20 minutes, let's talk about the budget. It has skyrocketed from 52.7 trillion to now 72 trillion and more. First of all, what do you make of that particular skyrocketing at a time where Ugandans are grappling with economic challenges? Where are we going to get the extra 20 trillion?
It's not just 20. Because if I have heard well what is projected as a budget, they hope to raise as tax revenue, which we will raise domestically,
Yes.
31 trillion.
Yes. And that's an estimate.
Yes. Now, first of all, if they were to raise that, they will leave skeletons all over the country. Because as I have said, people have already been sacked to the bones with the current taxes.
Yeah, because it was 25 to 28 trillion in the last year's framework.
Yes, and they didn't even
Yes.
collect that.
They didn't hit it, that's true.
So if you have to collect 30 from the situation that we are in, you would simply leave skeletons all over the country. So I don't think they will collect the 31. But if they collected the 31, they will still need to borrow 3 more trillion to service the debts they already have.
And it's already, the debt is taking the biggest percentage.
Yes,
of this
they
particular
will
budget.
need 34 to service the debts before they start talking about us.
That's true.
So
34 trillion.
what
is
they
going
hope
to
to
debts.
collect is already wiped out by debt, and they have to borrow more from us
Yeah, that's true. Domestic banks, yeah.
to pay the debt if they are not to default. Before they borrow from us, what to pay themselves as their salaries. So we must lend to the government money to pay the debts they have already eaten. We must also lend to them
Yes.
money to pay themselves this year.
To fund the budget this year, yeah.
To pay themselves this year before, because they are, what they say is the other components of the budget. That is not mandatory. What is mandatory, what they call statutory budget, is their pay. So since we don't even have money to pay their debts, we are going to borrow to pay the debts, service to service the debts. What they have an obligation to borrow for by law is their salaries only. So we shouldn't expect any form of service or development
For this financial year.
this year. And even without that, if we are to pay the taxes to the extent that they have provided, we shall be dead by the end of the year. So actually this budget, to my mind, provides the best point at which Ugandans must make a stand. It's a stand in any case to live or to die. That's where we are with this situation. Because either we live and the budget doesn't live, or it lives and we die.
Which the latter is most probably what is going to happen.
So
The budget will live and you will die.
So that is the whole thing. So that's why we must really mobilize ourselves to live. In which case we must kill the budget.
You're encouraging tax evasions?
We must not, this is not about tax, it's about the robbers. The robbers, it's time they get off our backs. Because we are where we are, because of the insatiable greed and consumption of the robbers that are in charge of this country. And time has come where we have to be eaten ourselves, or where we have to resist to be eaten. No more thing to rob, so they are coming for us. This is a defining moment for the country. Really, it is. And especially for you young people. Because for us, even if they eat us, we are already, we have no soup in us.
You're making the same statement Mr. Museveni made when he was talking to the taxmen, the traders at Kololo, that you as the young people should be the ones supporting me because I'm trying to ensure your future by these decisions that I'm making, by raising more taxes to help you. So who's blackmailing us? Is it you? Is it Mr. Museveni?
Well, it's now up to you, the young people, indeed, to make up your mind. Because we are where we are thanks to that 80-year-old man, as he calls himself, that he has spent the last 40 years, half of his life, inflicting the greatest pain this country has ever had. That man. He was the head of this country when all debts of Uganda that all previous governments had contracted were forgiven.
Yes, in the year 2000.
I've told you that now, whatever they can squeeze out of our bonds will not be enough to pay the debts he has taken. This same old man. He will, even if they take all the blood, it won't pay the debts he has taken. And we must borrow more to pay him to continue doing what he has been doing. Because all the money he's going to eat this year is going to be borrowed. All of it. He will borrow money to keep on closing roads so that he can pass without anybody disturbing him. That's how we got into where we are. This year, State House had 802 billion, which he ate.
That's almost $1 trillion.
Yes. When all those young people are busy kicking their friends to death so that they can also eat something. You know?
Yes, sir.
So the problem of the country cannot be in debate. It's not something that should be debatable. The question is whether we are ready to put a stand not to be eaten, or whether we are going to be eaten alive ourselves. That is what this year's budget very clearly rolls out. We either commit ourselves, like they say, the commitment of the pig to the owner is total, because you can't milk the pig so that it contributes to your well-being. It doesn't lay eggs. The only way it can support its owner is with its life. That's where we are as Ugandans now.
But one would say all countries borrow. Even the United States, the greatest economy in the world, it borrows.
You see,
where is the problem in me borrowing and paying back and servicing or giving you, some of the services that you did?
Nobody has ever said that borrowing is wrong. First of all, it should be the people to borrow. You see, once people have no authority over their government, they are not the ones who borrow. Yes. People don't know how we have gotten all this debt that we are grappling with. They don't know. And what it has done. They don't know.
That's the sentiment that is in the people.
Yes, they don't know.
We don't see the value for the loans.
Yes. They have no medicine in their hospital. The hospitals themselves are not there. The children are not going to school. They have no jobs. They have no... the squalor on that side is without doubt.
Yes, sir.
And what they have stolen is not just debts. It's also what we had here. Our public goods were all stolen by this junta. All public assets You know, we had the National Bank. It was taken. We had a string of hotels all over the country.
That's
they
true.
were taken. We had industries across the country. They were taken. We had, you know, public services, airlines, railways, all these public services, they were all looted. So, you know, really, when history is eventually written, very clearly, Mr. Museveni and his junta, and really it's his family. Yes, even those who serve the family cannot, I think, absolve themselves of responsibility. If you service a mafia don, you are equally responsible for his crimes. But when history is written about the kind of plunder that has happened in these 40 years, I think, you know, it will frighten the world, because I don't think anybody really appreciates up to now the kind of plunder, the level of plunder that this country has suffered under the Museveni junta. I don't think people really appreciate it.
Shall we see what happened in Congo under Mobutu? Because after Mobutu,
absolutely, it's akin. It's akin. It's very, very typical, similar. And the system is the same. In fact, you can comfortably call it Mobutuism, because he's following the footsteps, you know, because Mobutu had divided Congo into fiefdoms of his henchmen, the ones they called patrons. He had patrons who would collect money and take to him. Even here, you know, the brokers are very well known who have caused all this suffering. So this budget, we are going to make it easy for people to understand it. We shall break it down so that people know.
Yeah.
And we are already in moving around the country, and I must thank you know, people who have warmly received our visits to different parts of the country. This is our message. Our message across the country is that it's time to stand up and fight. It is now. It is not any other time. It is now time to stand up and fight for this country. And we either fight and get our country back, or this country will be lost forever. Just like the indigenous people of America, of Canada, of Australia lost out completely. The indigenous people of America will never regain America. It now belongs to people who came from outside. If we don't stand up and fight, and now, the danger of that happening is very distinct. So we must simply organize and act. Those are the two things. So first, people must have the information, must get the news that this budget may be your last, that it recalls on you giving yourself totally now to, it's not taxation, you are the tax. It's you they are coming for, you know. So, and we must put up a stand. We must really make our stand. We fight, at least we lose. If we lose having put up a fight. But let's not die or surrender ourselves to the slaughterhouse.
Doctor, give us your parting shots because we've come to the end of this discussion today.
Yeah, well, as usual, first of all, I am extremely grateful to all of you who keep up with this program. And I will be even far more grateful to you if you amplify some of the messages that we share in this program, because as I have just said, time is running out for us as a country to become free and to have an opportunity to reorganize the country in which we can live not just in freedom, but share equitably the great opportunities that our country endows us with. So let us all work 24/7. This is not time to sleep, it's not time to rest, it's really a race for survival. And I will be grateful if you can give whatever you can. Otherwise, on our part, we shall not relax. We are moving. We have covered already a significant part of the country with our message. We are continuing to eastern Uganda, to the areas of Teso, Bugisu, Sebei, Karamoja. We are continuing to West Nile. We still have parts of Buganda and Toro to visit. And after this visit, then we shall be able to, hopefully, together with all other Ugandans, come out with a very clear action plan for the liberation of our country. I thank you, and thank you, Edgar, for always having me here together with your team at Digitalk. I wish you a happy week ahead and God's blessings.
All right, thank you so much. Maybe let me take this opportunity to clarify on something that many of you say. This TV does not belong to Dr. Kizza Besigye. He just honored our invitation to come through and speak to Ugandans. So that narrative that this TV belongs to Dr. Besigye, it's actually...
I wouldn't mind owning it if I had the...
Maybe you wouldn't mind, but it does not really belong to Dr. Besigye. My name is Edgar. This is the Interface Show, and this is Digitalk TV. From the entire team, we would love to thank you for always watching this show, and to as many people as you always do. Thank you, Doctor, for always coming through, and of course, thank you, Ben, who is always on camera, and Mr. Mukosa Arnold, who is in the production space. My name is Edgar Matthew Karahanga from the entire team. God bless you. See you next Friday. But before you meet, there is a Snap Talk show that will be happening tomorrow. And of course, there is the Political Dice that will be happening on Sunday. Please do not miss those particular shows as we continue to innovate and serve you better. From the entire team, God bless you. Good afternoon, and see you soon.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.